Welcome to the Warriors of the World channel. In today's episode, we will explore the reality and legends of the class of Nepalese warriors, the Gurkhas, who are the feared and respected warriors of the Nepalese mountains. Small in stature, but giants in bravery, ferocity, and skill, the Gurkhas are a military force with over 2 centuries of history filled with fierce battles and extraordinary victories. With their motto, "Better to die than to be a coward," these soldiers have earned a mythical reputation, being the protagonists of acts of heroism that defy the understanding of the common citizen. Fighting alongside British forces in various conflicts, from the 19th century to the present day, the Gurkhas have left a profound mark on the military history of this planet. Today, you will be introduced to the extraordinary feats of the Gurkhas and their extreme acts of heroism, always accompanied by their iconic combat knife, the kukri, which they wield with lethal precision. You will also learn about the arduous selection process that turns young Nepalese men into relentless warriors. But do you know what truly makes these soldiers so feared and admired? We will dive deep into the hellish training that forges the Gurkhas, the military tactics and strategies they use, and the battles that have defined their history. We will also explore their human side, their cultural origins, and the personal stories that shape each warrior from this class of fighters born in the mountainous city of Gurkha in Nepal. Get ready for an epic journey to the heart of the Himalayas, where courage and determination come together to create one of the most extraordinary military forces the world has ever known. Let us now see where the Gurkhas become myth and where the reality lies. Imagine yourself in the mountains of Nepal. The air is thin, the terrain is hostile, and the villages are isolated from each other by miles of treacherous trails, mountains, and a harsh, unforgiving climate. It is in this environment that the Gurkhas grow and are shaped as warriors. From a young age, these men are molded by the need to face adversity. It is no surprise, then, that they become warriors of incredible tenacity, able to adapt easily to the most adverse conditions and fight fearlessly until their last breath. The Gurkhas are not just an ordinary military force. They are the embodiment of the ancient warrior spirit of Tibet. For over 200 years, the Gurkhas have been an essential part of the British armed forces, with over 46,000 Gurkhas having died fighting for the British Crown since 1947, participating in conflicts ranging from the Napoleonic Wars to modern-day wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. At the height of World War II, approximately 112,000 Gurkhas were fighting for Britain. And in each of these conflicts, they demonstrated a unique combination of discipline, ferocity, courage, and above all, loyalty. The Gurkhas were described as small demons with smiling faces by soldiers who faced their wrath on the battlefield. This duality, fierce warriors and, at the same time, humble and respectful, rooted in their religious and cultural upbringing, is one of the aspects that make these men so fascinating. They do not fight for personal glory, but for the honor of their origins, their millennia-old culture, their family, their sacred land, and the pride of being Gurkha warriors. But how did these warriors earn such a reputation? And why does the world continue to admire their bravery and combat and adaptability skills? To answer these questions, we need to go back in time and explore their origins in Nepal, a country shaped by war, which continues to nurture one of the greatest military legacies in history. It is worth remembering that the British Royal Navy has honored these warriors by naming 4 of their ships HMS Gurkha. 3 were sunk due to enemy action, and the last was retired in 1984. Historical context. The origin of these warriors comes from the highest mountains. The Gurkhas come from a beautiful mountainous region known as Gorkha, in Nepal, where the name Gurkha originated. Historically, Nepal was a conglomerate of small kingdoms, and the Gorkha region was one of the most warlike. In the 18th century, under the leadership of King Prithvi Narayan Shah, the Gorkhas began a process of unifying Nepal, conquering other kingdoms, and expanding their rule. It was during this period that the reputation of the Gurkha warriors began to grow, with stories of bravery and resistance echoing throughout the Tibetan region. The event that placed the Gurkhas on the global map was the Anglo-Nepalese War, fought between 1814 and 1816. The British Empire, in its quest to expand its borders in the Indian subcontinent, encountered far fiercer resistance in Nepal than it had expected. Although the British were militarily superior, they were impressed by the combat skills, determination, and ferocity of the Gurkhas, who used the mountainous terrain to their advantage and fought with unusual tenacity. Even though they were outnumbered, the Gurkhas inflicted massive casualties on British forces, with wide smiles on their faces. Although the treaty that ended the war was favorable to the British, The impact the Gurkhas had was so profound that instead of treating them as defeated enemies, the British began recruiting them for their own army. Thus, in 1816, began the long and fruitful relationship between the Gurkhas and the British Empire, a relationship that continues to this day. Since then, the Gurkhas have fought in almost every major British conflict, including the Crimean War, the Sikh Wars, the Afghan Wars, and, of course, they left their mark in both world wars. In each of these conflicts, they gained further recognition for their bravery in combat and their ability to operate in difficult terrains. Even under the worst conditions, the Gurkhas never retreated, and this earned them the respect of their allies and the deep fear of their enemies. But the Gurkhas are not just about war. Today, potential Gurkha recruits are encouraged to participate in a talent show before finding out if they have been accepted into the British Army. Some recent aspirants tried to impress with beatboxing and breakdancing. Gurkha training. Forging warriors in the fire of adversity. Gurkha training is legendary. It is not just about physical strength. It is a test of mental endurance, character, and pure determination. The selection process starts with about 10,000 young Nepalese men competing for only 400 spots, so only a small fraction can overcome the extreme challenges imposed during recruitment. The selection of their members requires them to possess very special characteristics. The Gurkhas are still recruited entirely and exclusively from Nepal, with most coming from remote, mountainous villages. The most well-known test is the Doko race, where candidates must run 5 kilometers over mountainous terrain carrying a basket with about 40 kilos of sand and stones in under 46 minutes. But that is just the beginning. During training, recruits undergo intensive exercises in endurance, strength, and combat skills. They are trained to survive in any type of climate and terrain, from scorching deserts to tropical jungles or snow-covered mountains. Long forced marches are frequent, and the goal is not just to condition physical strength but also mental, emotional, and psychological endurance. A fundamental pillar of Gurkha training is the emphasis on hand-to-hand combat, where the use of the kukri, the famous curved knife, is an essential skill. Recruits spend hours practicing with the kukri, learning to attack and defend with precise, deadly moves. Precision in using this weapon is a trademark of the Gurkhas, who often rely on it in close combat and survival situations. In addition to physical training, the Gurkhas are subjected to rigorous psychological preparation. They learn to remain calm under extreme pressure and make quick decisions in life-or-death situations. Loyalty to the unit and trust in their comrades are deeply ingrained values from the first day of training. The never-give-up spirit is constantly reinforced, and recruits are taught to fight until the end, regardless of the odds. But Gurkha training does not end after the initial selection. Throughout their careers, they continue to undergo tests of endurance and skill improvement. This ensures that when they are sent into combat, they are always prepared for any challenge they may face. The result of this process is an elite military force, composed of men whose physical and mental resilience places them among the best warriors in the world. Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw is quoted as saying, "If a man says he is not afraid of dying, he is either lying or he is a Gurkha." The Gurkha units are among the most decorated in the army. They have played a crucial role in all wars and have earned battle honors in sectors such as Uri in 1947-48, Ladakh in 1962, and Jammu and Kashmir in 1965 and 1971. They were also part of the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka. Gurkha regiments have received 26 Victoria Crosses, the highest military decoration awarded for valor in the face of the enemy. The kukri, the weapon that merges with the soul of Gurkha warriors. One of the trademarks of the Gurkhas is the kukri, a curved knife that has become a symbol of both their combat prowess and their ancient cultural heritage. The kukri is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of honor and loyalty for the Gurkhas. Each soldier carries their kukri with pride, knowing that this weapon represents the legacy of centuries of warriors who lived before them. The curved blade of the kukri allows for powerful, precise cuts, and the knife is used both in combat and for everyday tasks, such as cutting wood or preparing food. Its versatility is one of the reasons why the Gurkhas are so effective in a variety of combat environments, from dense jungles to frozen peaks of the Himalayas. In close-quarters combat, the kukri is particularly deadly. The weight of the blade, combined with the Gurkhas' skill in wielding it, makes this knife a tool of swift and lethal destruction. There is a tradition among the Gurkhas that once the kukri is unsheathed, it must taste blood. This means that if a Gurkha draws their kukri, they must use it, either against the enemy or, if necessary, on themselves. Although this practice has become more symbolic in modern times, it illustrates how intertwined the kukri is with the Gurkhas' code of honor. During the World Wars, the Gurkhas became famous for using their kukris in night raids, silently moving across the battlefield and surprising enemy troops. Many accounts from enemy soldiers describe the terror of hearing a Gurkha battalion advancing quietly with kukris in hand, ready for close combat. This psychological horror, combined with the mechanical efficiency of the weapon, helped cement the Gurkhas' reputation as relentless and lethal warriors. Iconic battles. The Gurkhas' legacy in combat. The Gurkhas have a long history of participating in some of the world's most important conflicts. Their actions in battles such as Gallipoli, Impal, and Monte Cassino are legendary in the annals of military history. Each of these battles highlighted the incredible ability of the Gurkhas to fight in adverse conditions and face enemies with unwavering courage and determination. The Gallipoli campaign during World War I was a trial by fire, and the Gurkhas stood out for their bravery in terrains that were nightmares for any common troop. The campaign was fought on steep hills and muddy trenches, where every yard gained cost countless lives. The conditions were hellish, with extreme heat during the day and freezing cold at night, and supplies were scarce. Yet the Gurkhas persisted, carrying out surprise attacks and gaining ground under near-impossible conditions thanks to their guerrilla tactics and superior knowledge of the terrain and climate. One of the most memorable moments was the capture of Chunuk Bair, a hill heavily defended by the Turks. Allied forces had repeatedly tried to take the position, but always failed. Then the Gurkhas were sent on the mission, and with their rapid and lethal advance, they managed to capture the position and hold the line against fierce counterattacks. Their action was crucial for the temporary success of the campaign, and their bravery under heavy fire was widely recognized by British commanders. Stories of heroism, where the Gurkhas defy the odds. Throughout their history, the Gurkhas have amassed countless bravery medals, including the aforementioned Victoria Crosses, the highest British military decoration. These are awarded only to those who demonstrate extraordinary courage under fire, and many Gurkhas have earned this honor for deeds that seem straight out of legend. One of these heroes was Lachaman Gurung, whose story continues to inspire soldiers to this day. In 1945, during the Burma campaign, Gurung's position was attacked by a much larger Japanese force. In an act of unparalleled bravery, he threw back 2 grenades that were tossed towards his position, but the third exploded before he could react, destroying his right hand and severely wounding his face and body. Despite this, he continued fighting alone, holding the line for 4 hours and taking down over 30 enemy soldiers. His heroic action saved his unit and earned him the Victoria Cross. Another example of indomitable courage was Bishnu Shrestha, who, in 2010, faced more than 40 armed bandits on a train in India. Armed only with his kukri, he defended the passengers, killed 3 of the attackers, and wounded 8 others. His bravery not only saved countless lives but also reinforced the reputation of the Gurkhas as warriors who never hesitate in the face of danger. These stories, and many more, are living testimony that the Gurkha spirit transcends time. Even in modern times, they continue to display the same qualities and drive that made them legends on the battlefield. The Gurkhas in the modern world. Peacekeeping missions and contemporary conflicts. Although times have changed and global wars are no longer as frequent as in previous centuries, the Gurkhas continue to play a vital role in modern military missions. They have been deployed in various recent conflicts, such as the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, where they fought alongside coalition forces in both combat and stabilization operations. In both conflicts, the Gurkhas distinguished themselves in both combat and peacekeeping missions. In Afghanistan, for example, they played a crucial role in defending forward positions, often facing insurgent Taliban attacks in remote, hard-to-reach areas. Their training in mountain combat was a significant advantage, allowing them to operate effectively in areas where other troops would have had obvious difficulties with movement and positioning. Besides their role in war zones, the Gurkhas are also heavily involved in peacekeeping missions around the world. They have participated in UN missions in places like Kosovo, East Timor, and South Sudan, where they help protect civilians, monitor peace agreements, and ensure security in conflict-ravaged areas. The Gurkhas' work in humanitarian missions is another less well-known but equally important aspect of their global contribution. In 2015, after the devastating earthquake that struck Nepal, many Gurkhas returned to their homeland to assist in rescue and reconstruction efforts. Using their survival skills and resilience acquired during military training, they worked tirelessly to help their communities rebuild, reinforcing their deep connection to their homeland and their people. Curiosities. The myth and reality of the Gurkhas. Behind the heroic feats, there are a series of fascinating curiosities that surround the Gurkhas, many of which help build the mythical image they still hold today. For example, the fact that the Gurkha selection process is so rigorous that of about 10,000 annual candidates, only 200 are chosen. This means that each year, only the top 2% qualify to join the ranks of this legendary military force. Another interesting curiosity is that, despite being elite soldiers, the Gurkhas are known for their humility and simplicity, typical of the Tibetan people. Many live modest lives in Nepal and continue to farm in their villages during their leave. Despite their reputation as unbeatable warriors, they are deeply connected to the land and their community, living in harmony with their traditions. What makes the Gurkhas so fascinating is not just the fact that they are feared on the battlefield. It is the mystical power that surrounds them. This mysticism comes from a combination of ancestral legends, spiritual rituals, and the almost supernatural connection the Gurkhas have with their mountainous lands. For the Nepalese people, the Gurkhas are not just soldiers. They are the guardians of their culture, their faith, and their indomitable spirit. Many believe they are protected by ancient gods and that their strength comes as much from the physical as from a spiritual connection that guides and protects them. There is something inexplicable about the way these warriors behave. Stories told by those who faced them speak of a supernatural resilience and a superhuman fury. Even when gravely wounded, many Gurkhas continued to fight as if driven by an invisible force. This mixture of belief, spirituality, and military discipline makes the Gurkhas seem invincible, almost as if each battle were a rite of passage between the world of the living and the realm of the gods or the spiritual world. The Battle of Impal. Unbreakable resistance in the jungle. During World War II, the Gurkhas faced the Japanese in some of the most brutal battles of the Burma campaign. The jungle terrain was particularly difficult, with suffocating heat, constant rain, and dense vegetation that made visibility and movement difficult. The conditions seemed designed to break even the strongest soldiers, but the Gurkhas, as expected, thrived in this environment. The Battle of Impal, fought between March and July 1944, was one of the most decisive battles of the war in Southeast Asia. Japanese forces, attempting to invade India, surrounded the city of Impal, and the Allied troops, including the Gurkhas, found themselves isolated and without supplies. The siege lasted months, with daily fighting and unbearable living conditions. However, the Gurkhas held firm, repeatedly repelling Japanese attacks and eventually helping to reverse the siege. Their performance was crucial in preventing the Japanese forces from invading India and marked a turning point in the campaign. Another highlight for the Gurkhas was the Battle of Monte Cassino in Italy in 1944. The Germans had fortified the site, and Allied forces had tried for months to break through the defenses without success. The mountainous terrain and fortifications made the position nearly impenetrable, but once again, the Gurkhas were called upon to do the impossible. In devastating combat conditions, the Gurkhas, accustomed to the Himalayas, easily climbed the steep slopes and assaulted the German positions with their characteristic fierce momentum. Although the battle was one of the bloodiest of the Italian campaign, with heavy losses on both sides, the Gurkhas played an essential role in the final capture of Monte Cassino, paving the way for the Allied offensive in the rest of Italy. Let us not forget that, at the height of World War II, approximately 112,000 Gurkhas were fighting for Britain. Spiritual rituals that guide the Gurkhas. Deeply connected to their spiritual traditions, their rituals reflect this connection between military life and the world of gods and spirits. Before going into battle, it is common for them to perform religious ceremonies, often dedicated to the deities of Buddhism and Hinduism, asking for strength and protection from the spirits. These rituals may include prayers, offerings, and even small ceremonies with Nepalese priests, called pujas, to purify the spirit and attract blessings. In addition, their kukris play an important role in these rituals. The Gurkhas believe that the kukri is consecrated with divine spiritual energy. They believe their weapons, through their rituals, become living beings imbued with mystical power, and before using them in combat, they perform symbolic gestures such as touching the ground with the blade or saying prayers of gratitude and requests for strength. These rituals reinforce the belief that in battle, they are protected not only by their skill but also by higher spiritual forces. The Gurkhas also believe that the kukri, by slaying an enemy and being bathed in their blood, absorbs their essence and power. For this reason, many Gurkhas keep their kukris as sacred objects, passing them down from generation to generation as symbols of honor and protection, consecrated in combat by the blood of their fallen enemies. The future of the Gurkhas, 21st century warriors. As the military world continues to evolve, the Gurkhas are also adapting to the new challenges of the 21st century. In addition to their expertise in close combat and operations in mountainous terrain, they are now receiving training in cutting-edge technology, such as cyber operations and the use of drones. The combination of ancient traditions with modern military knowledge makes the Gurkhas a more versatile and effective force than ever before. But regardless of technological advancements, the heart of the Gurkhas remains the same: an unwavering dedication to courage, loyalty, and excellence. As the world continues to face new threats and challenges, the Gurkhas will always be ready to answer the call, as they always have, with honor and determination. And for you, what are the Gurkhas? Are they elite warriors connected to spiritual and religious traditions, truly protected by their gods and spirits? Are they religious fundamentalist fighters who fight without fear of falling in battle? Or are they simply the product of their social and cultural environment and the needs within that scenario? We leave you with this question. So we have reached the end of our journey through the incredible Gurkha warriors. If there is one thing we have learned today, it is that these warriors are much more than soldiers. They are the living symbol of the bravery and resilience of their culture and spirituality. Subscribe to continue following the Warriors of the World channel for more stories of epic battles and legendary warriors. See you next time.